It's March 1st, 2021, so it's time for another monthly update video where we'll talk about what we've got coming up in this long month of March and all the things you might have missed or want to see again from the short month of February. I always begin with three big things. And so, big thing number one, and this is a really big thing, about 10 years in the making. I am on track this month to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if that happens, given current trends, we'll have a sort of party. Big thing number two, another milestone matter. We are close to the 300th video in the Half Hour Hegel series, and I think that'll happen this month as well. Big thing number three, there have been some changes to the Worlds of Speculative Fiction series. We're going to be focusing this month just on this book, R. Scott Bakker's The Darkness That Comes Before, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. The month of February is always way too short for all the things that we want to do. We're coming off the beginning of the year and, reconsideration of things and new planning. So it was a very packed month, and there were some handicaps as well, given that both my wife Andy and I were ill enough to go get COVID testing. Fortunately, we didn't have COVID, but it put us behind a little bit over the course of the month. We're now, more or less recovered, so that's good, but now we're catching up on all the work. Classes are in full session. There's all sorts of planning going on for the rest of the year. So what did we do in February? Actually, I held a special Hegel session online. Link is below. Specifically to celebrate getting from the long spirit section into the new religion section. We also did something kind of cool. We participated in Giving Fest, which was a Milwaukee-oriented, sort of set of events, and both Andy and I did separate events that we kind of rode herd on to make sure nobody was Zoom bombing or anything like that. Mine was specifically on Aristotle's theory of friendship and how it would apply to romantic relationships. I should also mention another thing that Andy and I did together, which is that we guest hosted a special Valentine's Day session of the Sunday Stoic podcast, and we talked a bit about our backstory, about what Stoicism has done to help us in the more than a decade that we've been together at this point, and so that was a lot of fun. Worlds of Speculative Fiction. This time around, I focused on 4 of Philip K. Dick's novels, and I actually brought in a friend and colleague of mine, Michael Gomez, to help out with the session afterwards. We did another friend and colleague thing with Scott Terulli, classic metal class this time around. We focused on metal in America in the 1970s. We're getting ready to talk about the LA scene, but I'm going to put that off until March. And what else? Great political theory practice discussion that we had focusing on student loan debt, prompted by President Joe Biden's remarks here in Milwaukee at the town hall event that we had during this month, where he said point blank that he was not going to be working for $50,000 of loan forgiveness. Number of other things that were, events that were recorded, like the AMA. I also held my usual Hegel Q&A sessions, and we had some great conversations there as well. And there's also an interview with me that came out recently that you might be interested on the What is Stoicism site. So I'll put a link to that below as well. You just click see more and all of these will pop up. Spent a lot of time engaged in stuff from my classes, which are going along more or less well, I also found out what I'm going to be teaching for the summer and the fall for at least 2 of the places that I teach, so that was kind of nice as well. And I did a lot of tutorial work, some with new clients, some with continuing clients, some philosophical counseling work, some consulting, quite a few other things as well. Video work, as many of you have probably seen, I've been doing a lot of core concept videos, mostly for my classes, right? I'm teaching a philosophy of life class. It's titled Philosophy, Mindfulness, and Life, but it's really about philosophy as a way of life. So I had some stuff on Pierre Hadot that I was releasing, and Peter Singer, because we're looking at utilitarianism and effective altruism, and then some stuff for a different class on Thomas Hobbes's Leviathan. I also I did a caption contest and released that video actually just yesterday. And I did one Sadler's stories about the suits that my mother bought for me shortly before she died, one of which I actually wore to her funeral. I did a Sadler's Honest Reviews about this book, Mindfulness and the Big Questions, Philosophy for Now by Ben Irvine. I gave it kind of a mixed review. You can watch the video for that. I'll link to it below. Hegel, we did the half-hour Hegel series, and I managed to produce 5 more videos. I didn't get to 6 yet, but 5 more on that. You know, February is a short month. That's going to be my excuse for why we didn't actually get to a full 6, but it's still pretty good to get that far. And what else? Wisdom for Life. We had 2 great releases of the video recordings. One was from the previous month on the AITA Reddit forum, but then we did a really special episode this month where I actually brought in my friend and colleague John Sellers in some excerpted clips, and my co-host Dan and I talked about philosophy as a way of life, and we're going to be following that up in the future. And then there were, videos from the events as well. So a lot of video production this month. I also did quite a bit of podcast production. I released a number of episodes on Plato's Meno, which is a text that I'm teaching, so I needed to do some podcast episodes for my students, and I thought, nice for the general public. Some stuff on Seneca's letters, selected letters, and I've been releasing a lot of stuff recently on David Hume, who some of my students are going to be reading and working on towards the middle to late part of the semester. So that's what went on in February. All right, let's talk about March now. So I'm really excited about the stuff that we have lined up for you, and I even have some props that I'll be showing you here and there. Tomorrow night, we have a special session of our chapter here in Milwaukee of SOPHIA. That's the Society of Philosophy in America. We are hosting a guest who is going to be talking about all sorts of cool issues. You could say it's largely in terms of like interpersonal communication, but he's got books on gaming and gamification, on critical thinking, on how to escape rabbit holes and silos. So this is going to be a really great event. We're hosting C.T. Nguyen, and I hope any of you, you don't have to be in the Milwaukee area to join us. Pop in, and it's going to be a great conversation. On the 6th at 12 p.m., we'll have our AMA, Ask Me Anything session, where viewers, subscribers, whoever else wants to pop in can do exactly that, ask me whatever they want to. If I'm competent to answer it, I will provide an answer. That same day, for Patreon supporters at a particular level, we have our philosophy chat, which is a much more intimate setting where they can talk with me about whatever they want to. Video conferencing. If you're interested in that, you should click the show more and think about becoming a Patreon supporter. Then on the 10th at 5 p.m., Hegel Q&A and discussion session. If you got questions about Hegel, you want to talk about German idealism or philosophy more broadly, you don't have to be a supporter of the Half-Hour Hegel Project. Just pop in and I'll be there. Later on that week, on the 13th at 12 noon and 1:30, we have the 2 parts of the Worlds of Speculative Fiction series. So I mentioned something about this in the 3 big things. We are going to be talking about this book in particular, R. Scott Bakker's The Darkness That Comes Before. It is a weighty tome coming in at over 600 pages. It is part of a trilogy of other similarly weighty tomes, and it is some super rich philosophical world building going on there. As I was rereading it, I decided, wow, there's so much just in this that I need an entire session to talk about this one. And then in April, we're going to talk about the Warrior Prophet. And in May, we're going to talk about the Thousandfold Thought. So we've rearranged the Worlds of Speculative Fiction series to adjust for that, dropped out a few. We will be still getting to quite a few important authors this year. But that has two parts, as usual. There's a video premiere with me talking about the world building, the philosophical ideas, biography, all that cool stuff that goes into those for the first hour and a half in a video release, and engaging in live chat with any of you who want to listen in or watch or talk about these things. And then after that, we have an additional hour and a half of video conferencing via Zoom, where we can get a bit more interactive and a bit more in-depth about the topics that we want to do. You probably do want to read the book before you jump in, though. It's not, this one's got a lot of stuff going on in there, a lot of moving parts. Think about if George R. Martin was a philosopher, and that's what you got in R. Scott Bakker. Later on, that same weekend, on the 14th at 12 p.m., we're going to have another political theory and practice discussion. And we're going to be grabbing a perennial issue by the horns, talking about Aristotle's views on slavery. So that, we'll be talking about slavery in the ancient world and how Aristotle, says most slavery is actually unnatural and contrary to nature and just a matter of force, but some is natural, how that got manipulated and used by people who wanted to justify slavery later on, both, in antebellum, American South slavery, and also throughout the Americas, particularly South America, to justify enslaving Native American populations. And then we'll talk about, these discussions of canceling Aristotle in the present as well. So a lot of rich topics there. On the 20th at 12 p.m., I'll be joined by Scott Terulli again, and we are going to be talking about the LA connection, the explosion of heavy metal on the Sunset Strip and all sorts of other places in the early 1980s. So we're going to be talking about a lot of cool bands and developments there. Then we're going to finish up the month on the 25th at 6 p.m. With the Milwaukee Stoic Fellowship. We're working through Cicero's On Duties, so you can find that. Link is below, and you can also find that by going to Meetup and looking up MKE Stoic Fellowship. Anybody can join. We have people sometimes from as far away as Brazil who join in with us, so that's very cool. I'll also mention that the Wisdom for Life radio show airs at 4 p.m. Central every Saturday. We have some new shows coming out this month, new show episodes. And we'll also be having some, as I pointed out in the three big things, some milestone celebrations when we hit them. If I cross the 100,000 subscribers mark in YouTube, well, then I'll do an event. I'll do some sort of live chat or something like that to celebrate it. Similarly, when we cross the 300 video mark with the half-hour Hegel series, I will be doing some sort of event to commemorate that. I don't know exactly when they're going to be, so you want to stay tuned to the Reason.io calendar or to my Facebook page events. Either of them, are usually updated about that. Video work. I got a lot of stuff to do this month. Going to be doing some, Hegel, of course. I'm going to try to crank out 6 videos. Hopefully I can do that in the half-hour Hegel series. Got some cool core concept stuff coming up, some of which may be a big surprise. So we're going to finish up the Hobbes stuff. I'm releasing those. But then we've got 3 things on from Diogenes Laertes on the Cynics, Antisthenes and Diogenes of Sinope. Those are for my class that I'm teaching right now. There's also a lot of other Cynic-related content that's going to be coming out from Lucian of Samosata, or from Xenophon's Symposium, where he's talking about Antisthenes. Got some stuff from Julian the Emperor, who you might know as Julian the Apostate, from Oration 6. 6 that I'll be releasing. And then one of the big projects I'm doing this month is core concept videos on Nietzsche's genealogy of morals. So a lot of really great concept coming out with that. I'll probably do another caption contest since people seem to really like that. I may do some more Sadler's stories depending on time. I'm also going to be trying to crank out some book reviews. And so I have 4 books that I'm going to try to get through, and I'll show you what they are. We'll see if I actually get to all of them. Cynicism by Allen, right? That's a very interesting book. Here's one that I got a while back that I've been, waiting to work on, Midlife, A Philosophical Guide. We were doing, the stuff on effective altruism, so I'm going to be doing Peter Singer's The Most Good You Can Do. And then finally, Catherine Wilson's How to Be an Epicurean. That came out a little while ago. That's kind of an interesting book as well, so I think we'll have a good time with that. The events, the online events like the AMAs or whatever celebrations we have, there'll be videos for those. Wisdom for Life, we record those sessions as well, and you can see them. In the podcast, so I'm still cranking away on Hume content. I also have some Plato content on the Ion that I need to do this month. And then I'm going to see, maybe I'll do another vote, to see what people want me to work on next, because I don't really have a lot of stuff that I need right now for classes. So I think I've got a little bit of wiggle room. And we'll put it to a vote of some sort. So that's what we got coming up in March. Again, all the events are in Central Time. If you want to join in on any of them, you can. The only ones that are exclusive are, for example, the Philosophy Chat for Patreon supporters. But everything else, you can join in if you'd like to. It's just a matter of finding the right time and jumping right in using the links. So that is the month ahead, and that's the month behind. Hope I see some of you in these online events, and stay tuned for updates about these milestones that we're likely to cross.